Thank you. All right, we are starting the koha-US general meeting. Our first item on the agenda, we were going to try to get Tomas from Tech A to join us. I know he's got kids to take care of at home and things like that, or ship them around. So he may drop in later. He may not be able to come today. And if we don't have him, we'll get him some other time to speak a little bit about his role in development in the community. So I think we can go straight on to see if anybody has any announcements they want to make.
I did. Not so much an announcement. I just wanted to let everybody know part of what was going on at the Koha conference in Montreal. Some of you I see here that were there like a week ago. So KohaCon last week was in Montreal, and on September 26th, there was a discussion about creating a Koha Foundation. The session was called the Koha Foundation Workshop. I put a link to a YouTube video from that workshop in the chat box. But by the time we got to that point of the conference, most of the US people weren't there in the room with that discussion. I think it was just Jason and I were the only people from koha-US really that were there. I guess Ed was there too, but and Spencer, but none of the officers were there. And so when it came time to actually, the idea is that the Koha community doesn't have a foundation behind it. It doesn't have a nonprofit organization behind it. And so Brendan Gallagher from Bywater Solutions and Jonathan from PTFS have been worked at the Hackfest on trying to set something up. And many of you probably saw the email that Brendan sent to the community mailing list about creating a foundation. And the idea now at this discussion was to get enough people on a committee to actually do the work of creating that foundation and getting that organized under the Open Library Foundation. And since nobody else from koha-US was there, myself to be on that committee to kind of represent the interests of koha-US. So if anybody has any questions about it, let me know and I can try and answer those or bring those up. If anybody has any questions or issues, if there's certain things that you want this foundation to do, let me know and I can take that into consideration when I go to these meetings. We're going to have our first meeting next Monday. And I will, after the meeting, I will try and report back to everybody what I think is important for koha-US to know about what happened during that meeting. So, and anybody that wants to, feel free to watch the video and you can see what the discussion was about. So I just wanted to make sure that that got discussed.
Yeah. Emily, you were there also at the meeting in person, right? Yeah. I watched the video and just to clarify for like one of the main takeaways is that they came up with 11 people to sort of be the forming committee. Of those 11 people, they need to select a manager, a treasurer, and a secretary to serve for 1 year. And I believe that's going to be put to a vote ultimately.
Yes,
that's still being decided. Yeah.
I think at this first meeting, we're going to discuss who will be those 3 people because they're, you know, we're trying, the idea is to organize this as a 501(c)(3) in the US. And so that's, I think, one of the first things we'll talk about is who are those people going to be from that committee and then put that to a vote among, you know, just like the picking Montreal to be the place for KohaCon or picking the release team for a version of Koha. It'll be voted on that way, I imagine. But you know, right now the idea isn't for this group to replace the existing structure that's already in the Koha community, the way that things are currently organized and the way that the roadmap is created and the way that the developments happen. It's not to replace all that. It's just to have a place where a lot of the stuff that is distributed haphazardly and in an unorganized, in an asynchronous kind of anarchic kind of way right now. One person owns the Koha community website, a different person owns the wiki, a company in New Zealand owns the mailing lists. The idea is to try and bring that all under one umbrella so that there's a clear way. You know, Liz owns the Koha community website. And so what happens if Liz quits? You know, she's the one that owns that, domain name. So what happens if all of a sudden Liz isn't available anymore? It'd be nice to have those kinds of things, organized into one place where the community can hold something that can hold those assets, so that there's a path forward. There's a change management. That's the word I'm looking for. How do we handle change management when all of this stuff is distributed almost semi-randomly through different people throughout the world? So that's kind of what the foundation hopes to address. So if anybody has any questions about it, you can always reach me at george@nekls.org. And you can bring up those concerns and I can take them to those meetings. And likewise, I will try to report back next month on what the committee for the foundation committee has done, so that you guys are all in the loop. And I just wanted to make sure that we discussed that at the meeting today.
Yeah, thanks, George. We'll make sure that even if you're not on the agenda, you can just give us an update of the announcements if we forget to include that in there for next month.
Well, I can try to remember too when there's to make sure that Christy knows that can be part of the agenda. So
I'll probably remember. I'm always very excited when I can actually have things to put on the agenda. So all right, any other announcements? Okay, well, let's move on. This is a good segue from what George discussed to a more general recap from KohaCon. And you can see we got a picture with the US delegation that went up there, at least most of us. And I was there for the 2 days of presentations, and then I had to get going, so I didn't have as complete a picture, but I thought it was a really good conference. I don't know if anybody who didn't attend attended online, but it was really nice. In person for the French speaking presentations, we had live translation, which was helpful. Online that may have been a little bit trickier because I don't think there was any way to provide that. Maybe they figured that out, I don't know, but I really enjoyed hearing the people present in their native language, and there's just lots of good variety, good discussion. Anybody else, feel free to jump in with your thoughts.
I think it was great to see the international perspective. That nothing more to add than that. Like just knowing where the support company is in Australia, or this user group is the French user group. That was just a lot of good education for me.
Yeah, I hadn't realized that there's a French user group. Next month, we're going to have somebody from a Swedish user group come and join us. But it's great to see there's all these pockets of similar organizations to what we have all over the world, really.
Yeah, I found it interesting that the Quebec group is torn between, do they want to be part of a North American group or do they want to be part of the French group because of language? There were some interesting conversations about that.
Bob, I did tell Sonia that maybe you might reach out to her about attending one of our meetings and describing the French user group to us. So
Yeah, I'd be happy to, yeah.
By the time we get around to that, you might not be president anymore. That might be
That's
something
all right.
for
I can
Andrew to do.
still do some things. Andrew's not going to push me into an open grave. That's not how the transfer of power works.
That sounds
guess
anticlimactic. Surely there's something messier.
All right. Well, let's move on to some, if no one else has any other thoughts, let's move on to some other items. We've had some interest, but no official proposals yet for a site proposal for next year's conference. There is still time to do to get that in. If we have a single candidate that meets our necessary requirements and just one, then we will go forward with that. If there are multiple ones that fit the bill, then we'll put it to a vote. So we'll probably be
what is the deadline?
I believe we set it for the end of this month.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you say there are no submissions yet?
There's no official submissions.
Okay.
I've been working with a library group, a consortium on putting something together. So I'll speak on that when we actually get there, when there's something official to say, because until it's official, I don't want to mention them. But I think that will likely be submitted. It's just a matter of filling out the form. There's been some other work on securing the site if we are to have it there. So I don't think we're going to be begging too hard necessarily, but the more, always the more the better. Gives people a chance to have options. There was one year we actually had 4. That was cool. And then COVID hit, and then
Can you send out a reminder to people that, we hear about it and then everybody gets busy, back to school and all that crazy stuff. So
there'll probably be a few reminders of some of the things we talk about in this meeting, because there's other things that need to, the next 2 items on the agenda also we want to promote as well. So I think we'll be doing that. Yeah, boy.
I have a quick question. So have we discussed in the past about trying to go get commitments or whatever 2 years out? And the only reason I'm asking that is different parts of the country have different budgetary impacts.
Sure.
And so as many of us have October to September fiscal windows, I would love to, let's just say we had one in Palm Springs, California. That's going to be far more expensive than it was to be in Lawrence, Kansas, or whatever. So being able from a fiscal perspective to plan for that, would there be any discussion to maybe say we'd like commitments 2 years out?
We certainly could do that. My only concern, I mean, it's feasible. My only concern with that is sometimes it's difficult enough to get somebody lined up for the following year. So 2 years out might be a bit of a challenge, and it depends. Like, it depends on. Some libraries won't do any booking that far in advance and some things like that. So, but others would be like, okay, well, the director's okay with it, so it's going to get done. It'll just be on. So it might be tough to do that. It's certainly something we can discuss, and we have a conference committee meeting when this meeting ends. And so I think it's certainly worth delving into a little bit further, because I certainly understand that, I mean, and from the conference on your end, what you're saying, Wally, that makes sense, but also on the conference committee planning portion of things, the earlier stuff gets done, just the easier things are to set up. So I think the only limiting factor might be just getting a commitment that far out. But we can certainly talk about and see if we can make that happen.
Yeah, that's what Bob has said right there is one of the things that I would have had a problem with if we had planned. And if I had been trying to set up the 2022 conference in 2020, I wouldn't have been able to book rooms or anything like that, where we had them at Maselli's and those places. I wouldn't have been able to get those things organized that far in advance. So that would be my concern too. The places the times that I've seen a conference organized that far in advance, it's usually because they're booking a hotel and a conference center that's designed for, major league kind of conferences. We do the Kansas Library Association does the conference in Wichita. Like, we have to make a 3-year commitment to that space to afford that space essentially, and that's, that'll be like 500 people at that conference. So it's a lot different when you're talking about booking a conference for 100 people 2 years in advance. So
yeah, well, we'll kick it around and see what options are. I mean, at minimum, we could always look at moving up our timeline, and we've tried to do that a little bit, but it's been very incremental, not super far in advance. But I do think there is definitely a logic to doing it, getting this process done earlier than we have been, for sure. Any other questions on that? I see a question if there's going to be a recording. Yes, there's a recording. We always record the general meeting, unless we forget, but I think we've been very good about that. All right, up next, Andrew, you want to talk about this one? This falls into your kind of development update.
Yeah. So along with our currently open form for conference locations, we are also currently taking votes on our 2024, I just forgot what year it was, 2024 development funding. As discussed at our conference back in Round Rock, that voting is ongoing through the end of the month. Let me put a link in the chat even. But yeah, so far we've got 19 responses. Out of the options we discussed at the conference, the current front runner is to add mark indicators to the mark modification templates. I have put the voting breakdown in the chat. It's leading by a hair though. So if people want to really push for move holds between records, you got to form your voting blocks, trade your horses. But please vote legally. It is, I think, going to be my job to go through the votes and make sure that everybody voted once and is a koha-US member. So please make that easy for me. I saw Jessie's hand go up.
Move holds between records got fully funded. That just happened.
Hey.
So I don't know if that.
Well, that's always good news. I mean,
Yeah, it's great news.
Good news.
well, that's the one I'm going to vote for.
Well, we'll have to have a conversation about whether that changes this voting at all.
If it wins, then we'll have to have the conversation about how to do that. I think if it doesn't win, then we can probably respect the result of the winning entry.
While I would love. Go ahead, George.
If it wins, just go with number 2.
Yeah.
We could do that too. There's something to be said for maybe people would have voted differently had that been off the table, but this is the nature of development, is it's pretty fluid and things change. So
yeah.
But yeah, I think we would probably do that. But yeah, so if you're for your voting block, you would really have to either, if you want to take no action or auto update connected accounts, you really gotta
got a little bit of a slog.
What is currently in second place?
I just clicked away from it. So the first place right now is mark modification templates. Second place is moving holds between bibs. Mark modification templates has gotten 3 votes in the last 30 seconds though, so it's really pulling ahead at this point. I like that it updates live. And then distant third is take no action.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, if you haven't voted in the last 30 seconds or prior to that, you still have an opportunity. But it sounds like we perhaps have our next development.
Yeah, the catalogers might have won, which is okay. We can throw the catalogers a bone.
And
we rely on them.
And who would have thought that our straw poll would have been fairly accurate there? That was what dominated in the in Round Rock. So, all right,
thank you all for participating in our democracy.
Now, how many votes have we had about total?
We're at 23.
Okay, so there's
I haven't checked how many of them are George.
Still not super robust on that. Okay, next up, board nominations. We are very much in need of nominations, so I've got the links in the agenda, but I will also copy that and put it in the chat here. Please consider joining the board. There are definitely various levels of commitment that we've discussed a few different times. So some positions like the vice president, that's a little bit heavier, being a member at large, or treasurer, not as onerous. So what will likely happen is if we don't continue to get nominations, as Andrew and I will either be nominating people or twisting arms to get people to nominate themselves. So you could avoid that uncomfortable arm twisting and volunteer sooner than later.
How many do you have so far for each position?
We've got 2 nominations, but one was withdrawn and another one was nominated for somebody that we will double check, but I believe they said they were probably not going to be able to participate. So it is possible we have 0. we have 0. So like I said, there is some necessary positions to fill. And so I will be putting this all in an email, all of our things with all of our links to just kind of remind people. But we definitely, for anybody that's taking the time to attend this meeting, it very well could be you that could help us out with that board meeting, with board business and things like that. So we could always put you in contact with people that have done it before, either this past year or previously, if you have questions about what it exactly entails and what the time commitment is. Happy to do that.
When's the deadline to nominate?
Well, I think let me click on the link and see what we have said. I don't think we have mentioned a specific deadline, but considering where we are, we'll probably be looking until we get in there. Oh, Wally just submitted my nomination for treasurer. Okay, cool. Wally, thank you. And
Yay, Wally.
and I got good news for you, Wally. You were the one that was also nominated. So now we have definitely one. I wasn't sure if you'd be able to do it from our discussion at Round Rock, but that's fantastic. So we still have vice president, member at large supported, and a 1-year term for member at large unsupported that we need to fill. The member at large unsupported was fulfilling a previous term. We don't want to always have 4 positions up at a time. So that's why that is a little bit less. But the other ones are a 2-year commitment, and I'm interested in at large support. Wonderful. And oh, George has nominated himself. Great. And again, if we have multiple nominations, we will be happy to have a vote for sure. As much as we love to make George do tons of stuff for this organization, it is fine to have options too. Yes, George.
I'd be happy to unnominate myself if Chip wants to do it. So I just figured I'm probably going to be doing a lot with this Koha Foundation. I might as well have a position that allows me to report back to the board directly. But if Chip wants to do the member at large supported, that's fine with me too. So
I just nominated Chip.
Well, thanks. All right.
Fantastic.
Hopefully it went through. Let me know if it didn't, because I would feel really badly.
I think I'm supposed to get emailed now when that happens. So maybe it doesn't seem to be immediate, but or maybe it goes to my other email. I have so many emails. Oh yeah. We got all sorts of nominations coming in. Wonderful. Well, that was as productive a plea for help as I think I've ever experienced in any facet of my life. So thank you all. Great. So what we will do with people that are nominated is we will first confirm with them that they are in fact willing to do this. And then we will put together, when it comes time for a vote, we'll put something together that has the different descriptions, and at a future general meeting, we'll invite you to talk a little bit about your interest for like no longer than 2 minutes. It doesn't need to be a huge speech or anything like that. Just a quick, here's why I'm interested kind of thing. So fantastic. All right. I'm assuming
I'm a
yeah,
little slow
please.
here. So when will be the meeting? Is it the next meeting where people will do their bios and introduce themselves, or the meeting or the December meeting?
That again, it will be one of those 2 meetings.
Okay.
Probably next meeting, considering we actually have some people nominated now. That makes a difference. If we had ended this meeting with 0 nominations, we might have had to extend that, but we will aim for November. So we'll try to set a deadline for submissions for the end of October as well. And then when we do the voting, we will have, if there is a conference vote, that will be on the same email that goes out for voting, and as well as any votes that we have for contested board positions. Any other questions? Four-year term, yeah. Well, I'm term limited right now at 1, and maybe like Christopher, I will come back someday, but I will allow Andrew to take over for fear that he will push me into that open grave. Get all the
I'm power
benefits
hungry and violent.
Yes.
Yeah.
The power that comes with this position is very seductive. Okay. I'm not sure that we're gonna be able to get Tomas today, so we'll just move to open bug talk issues, various things like that.
I'm gonna say I gotta get off here, so I've got another training, so I'll see everybody later.
See ya.
Bye.
Did anybody get upgraded? No, some of those upgrades are happening this week. Any issues as a result?
Ours is tonight.
I saw somebody in the Bywater Partners Slack channel talking about how they're having trouble seeing their item records. They open up a bib and then they get a little like processing spinner that spins forever. Bye, Jesse. It doesn't sound like they're having exactly the same issue we had as an early adopter, but we had item records not show up where the replacement price date was a string of zeros rather than a null. If y'all haven't been updated yet, that might be a nice little thing to look at in your item record data. There's a bunch of ways that your various item date fields can end up being all zeros rather than nulls. It's an easy thing to clean up, but some change in how 2405 grabs and displays data makes it less forgiving of that data error than previous Koha was. So it might be worth a quick like select all from items where any of the given dates is a string of zeros. And then bug Bywater to fix those things quickly.
I know I'd also heard of something going on with Z3950, and but I don't know what the bug is, and I don't know too much about it. I just had heard that there was something going on with that. So I know our consortium is pretty reliant on that. I know a lot of others aren't so much, so that may affect you at varying levels.
Yeah, and I was looking at that conversation a little bit and was confused because I know we use Z3950 and we didn't have that problem. So I don't know like what specifically it is that makes it go weird.
Yeah.
Well, you're making me look forward to Sunday. We're upgrading. We're like one of the last to go. We're going to be upgrading Saturday night. So it sounds like I got some things to check out on Sunday morning.
This isn't the first Koha upgrade I've seen that like makes Koha a little fussier about data irregularities in a way that's really easy to clean up, but is sort of immediately terrifying when you run into it. Like, oh, I can't look at any bib record. That's not great, even if it's a 5-minute solution.
I'm writing a report right now.
Share that in the chat when you're done. Okay, any other bugs or concerns? Sounds like a lot of people are still about to go that haven't gone yet.
This isn't a bug. Oh, go ahead, Emily. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Sorry. There's another fun upgrade bug with thankfully a new feature that you can just not turn on until it's fixed. But if you turn on the option to like place multiple item level holds by like checking checkboxes instead of, clicking a radio button and only placing one at a time, there is a bug where the first one the system processes will get added to the end of the line like it should be, and then all of the rest of them will jump to the front of the line and cut in front of everyone else. There is a patch submitted for that, which I believe has been pushed to main, but hasn't been like backported to 2405 yet. I think it just got marked for backport soon though. So if you don't want your item level holds to cut the line, you might want to not turn that on until that gets backported. I'll find it and post it in the chat.
And so with that particular feature, because I kind of remember this, but is that something you turn on, like once it's on for anybody to be able to place holds that way?
It's a system preference, I believe.
System preference, so it's not like tied to, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably be avoiding that one anyway. That will cause havoc if we turn it on, whether it's working or not.
You're good.
You sure? Okay. You were going to say something, Christy?
Yeah, I was looking at the website, and I noticed that we don't have Jessie listed as the fundraising chair on the website. And I was wondering if we could get that updated.
Yeah, I actually moved that to our board agenda.
Oh,
I saw
oops,
that
sorry.
item.
Okay.
Just because, that seems like Also always excited when I have board agenda items that I can
Right.
put on.
We'll
So
save
what we-
that for then.
Yeah, we will talk about that next week at our exciting board meeting, which, by the way, everybody's welcome to. So if you're thinking about, if you just nominated yourself or someone, you know, or you've been nominated by someone, feel free to drop by and engage in the excitement. All right, does anybody have anything else? It is entirely okay if we don't fill an hour.
I just checked, we did have trouble with the Z3950 when we upgraded. And what they did was restart our server, or whatever. What did they say? Yeah, we restarted your Z3950. It took 2 restarts before it actually worked, but that was how ours was fixed. So,
Okay, so there is a fix. That's good to know.
yeah.
I was worried there would have to be some sort of patch backported in or something like that, but that's good.
Rhonda, real quick question. So the Z3950 thing, does that affect the share it in SIP talking back and forth stuff?
Helps if I unmute. They are separate. So the share it is one way to get stuff, and then the Z3950 is another way to get stuff. So yes, we're learning. Texas no longer buys OCLC for all of the libraries that are TechShare libraries. So all of us Texas libraries are figuring out new and wonderful ways to find MARC records.
Okay, I hear silence. George has disappeared. So I think that's the official ending of the meeting. So thanks for all your attention. We'll be meeting next month at on the 6th of November. And like I said, we will have a guest from the Ola Anderson from the Swedish user group. So he'll talk to us a little bit about what they're up to and how they do it. I have been to one of their meetings, and it's interesting because they have a lot of attendance and but way less of the infrastructure and the stuff that we do. So be good to learning. Tomorrow, I see your question. We're kind of at the end of our meeting, but just hang on, and as people are leaving, we can talk a little bit about that.